I will turn my camera on. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here today. My name is Amy Van Rensburg. I am the Manager of International Recruitment here at the University of Guelph. I so appreciate you guys being here today. I know it's a hectic time of year, January, and whatever time of day. It's morning here in Guelph, so good morning for those in our time zone, afternoon, evening for those around the world. I know in our registration list, we have students from all around the world coming today, so thank you so much for taking the time out of your day or your evening to come chat with us. Today is an admissions FAQ, so today is everything you need to know about admissions here at the university. So we have quite a few things to get through. I can see new people joining us, so as people come in, I'll just give it another 20 seconds as people are joining and go over quickly some rules. Rules sound a bit strict. I will say the outline of today to make sure we're all on the same page and following what we need to. So you will meet my fellow speakers today as they come on and do their slides and do their part of it. They'll introduce themselves. But we have Dave and Astrid who are here today, both from the recruitment and admissions team, able to help us today. This will be an hour in length, so we will be here for a full hour for us, it's between 10 and 11, so it's 10:03 now. We'll leave quite a lot of time at the end for questions. So we're going to do a brief presentation, which hopefully will answer a lot of those questions. But as we go through it, we're going to ask anyone who's on here today to use the Q&A function at the bottom. I know a lot of us have been in Zoom world for many years now, so if you do not know where that is, just pop a message into the chat, but we'll be answering them via the the Q&A section. So if you do have a question, just pop it in there, and any one of us in the background will either answer it by typing and sending it back to you, or at the end, we'll verbally answer it in our live Q&A. There is an option when you go into the FAQ to make your questions anonymous. If this is something personal that you have about your specific application or anything like that, please just make sure you move the name to anonymous if you don't want everyone in this webinar to know your name and that specific question. We'll answer again as an anonymous answer as well, so you won't be able to do anything, but anyone will be able to see there. However, during this, if you do have a question that is personal to your actual application here at Guelph, we won't be able to answer those live just because we have to look you up in our system and it can be quite convoluted. So what we're asking, and I'll post this in the chat here, is to please email us at intapps, and we'll say what to put in the subject line there, just so we have your student ID, and just put admission webinar questions. So right now, our admission staff is on that email account to make sure those questions are answered as well. I'll pop that in the chat right now quickly, just so you have that information there. So please feel free to use the Q&A function as we go forward, or to email us via that account. Last quick reminder, next week we will be having an immigration webinar at the same time as today, next week, Wednesday. So if you do have any questions about immigration specifically, that is next week's webinar. And we of course have the giant international virtual open house, which will be happening on February 11th, which is a huge campus-wide event that will allow you to speak to different programs, faculty, professors, the different departments here, athletics, housing, all of them will have booths open on Zoom for you to be able to kind of go between, and it's all international focused. So I just put a link in the chat there as well to help you guide you towards where you can register for that international virtual open house or the immigration webinar next week. Awesome, so I see we've got quite a few new people here, so welcome, welcome. I hope that you can check the chat for anything you may have missed in the last few minutes, but I think we're gonna power ahead just so we can make sure we have enough time at the end to answer some of your questions. Perfect, so over to the next slide, please, Graham. Graham is our manager of digital communications, who's on here today to help us with some things in the background as well, and he's the one that kind of helps in all of our digital comms, so you may have heard of Graham as well. So today we're just going over these 4 lovely sections. So just a quick overview of admissions, how to choose your program. Many of you maybe have already applied, so some of that is just kind of reiterating what you've maybe gone through. The program requirements, to just quickly go over what you need for each program. So when you apply to a Canadian institution, or specifically Guelph, you aren't applying to Guelph, you're applying to a program at Guelph. So each program has different requirements for you to get into. So just kind of laying out how best to read that and understand what your requirements are coming to that. And then going over the application, what platforms you can use to apply, and how quickly we kind of get offers out as well, because we have lovely Astrid here, who is our manager of admissions. Perfect. I think now is the perfect time to hand it over to the lovely Dave. So he's going to go over our admissions process. So over to you, Dave.
All right, thank you, Amy. I will briefly introduce myself. My name is Dave Orellana. I work here at the University of Guelph as an international student recruitment officer, and I will be pleased to present the slides to you. I will have my camera off while I'm presenting, so you don't get distracted by my distracting face. And then any question, as Amy mentioned, will be posted on the chat. All right, so in this slide, we can see our admission process. In summary, the admission process starts with exploring our program of study. Once you identify the program or programs of interest, you need to check the program-specific admission information. This could refer to required courses, GPA, and sometimes other specific conditions, such as work experience or even previous undergraduate terms completed. That is specifically to the doctor in veterinary medicine. As an international student, you might present evidence of English proficiency in your primary or if your primary or first language is not English, or you have less than 4 years of full-time education. For more details about our English language proficiency, we will elaborate further in this presentation, okay? So just bear with me. It is important to review both the country and the curriculum-specific requirements. The next step is to check whether the program is offered at the University of Guelph main campus, here in the city of Guelph, the University of Guelph Humber in Toronto, or if it's an associate diploma offered at the Ridgetown campus. At this point, you will be ready to process the application and pay the application fee. More details about this shortly. After applying, you'll be given instructions to log in into the admissions portal. Here, you will be able to submit any required document, such as transcripts or supplemental forms, if applicable, and track the status of your application. The sixth step in this process, if applicable, is to submit the English language proficiency score. More details about this in a future slides. The student profile form is a document that allows you to add information to your application. Here, you could describe extracurricular activities that have helped you to develop soft skills such as leadership, teamwork, time management, etc. Or you could also explain any possible challenges you faced during the completion of your high school that might have negatively affect your academic performance. Although submitting this document is not compulsory, we strongly recommend submitting it. Then, please check your admission portal for updates and required documents. Finally, for all successful applicants who receive an offer, the next step will be to apply for their study permit, which is processed through Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. For additional support, we have student advisors qualified to provide guidance related to the study permit. For more details related to the content in these slides, please scan the QR code on the slide or visit the link that we are going to be sharing right now in our chat. Now, Grant, please, if we can move to the next slide. Thank you. Here, we are just to briefly explain how we envision students could help themselves choosing their program. We present our program by themes. In this example, let's say that I am interested in animals conservation and health. Based on the University of Guelph programs, I could consider options such as animal biology, biomedical science, marine and freshwater biology, or zoology, to name just a few out of the list displayed on this slide. Please scan this QR code to review all of our program themes. There are 10. And they will help you to identify and select your program if you haven't done so yet. I'm also adding a link to the chat that will take you to the page of our viewbook displaying this information. You can use either the link or the QR as previously mentioned. Can we please transition to the next slide? Thank you. In this slide, we can see all the undergraduate programs offered at the University of Guelph. At our university, you'll have the opportunity to select a program and tailor it by selecting a major and a minor. For example, let's say that I want to study the Bachelor of Commerce because I am interested in learning about how to link goods and services provider with their users and customers. Then I'll choose a marketing major. On top of that, I know that marketing is related to customers' behavior. Hence, I'll choose a minor in psychology just to strengthen my knowledge in that field. You can get help from our academic advisors to customize your program, and they will be very useful, I would say, to help you navigate this, because there are 80 plus majors and 60 plus minors. So it's a lot to choose from based on your interest. Now I'll hand the presentation to my colleague Astrid.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I can see that the list of participants keeps increasing, which is absolutely fantastic. We are very happy to see you and be able to connect with you today. Of course, as Amy mentioned, we will be reachable by email as well, just to make sure that you have the ability to ask any specific questions. One thing I wanted to mention is that I can see the Q&As are populating, so we are going to leave enough time at the end of the presentation, if those questions are not answered during our presentation, to answer all of those questions. So just be patient with us and just make sure that you keep typing in the questions as they come up in your mind, so that you don't forget them. So my name is Astrid Morfit. I'm the Manager of International Admissions at the University of Guelph. I have a wonderful team that supports our application processing and adjudication of applications from our international students who are semester 1 students. So we are specifically talking today about undergraduate students who are applying directly from high school. So either you're currently in high school or you have recently graduated from high school, but have not spent much time at post-secondary studies in college or university. So I just wanted to clarify that, just to make sure that the information we chat about is applicable to you. If you are interested in graduate studies, or if you're applying as a transfer student, let us know, and then we will provide you with information that would be helpful to you and any contacts that you should be aware of. So in regards to program requirements, if you visit our website, you will see that we have very specifically outlined our program requirements by country, curriculum, and the type of degree that you can complete at the University of Guelph. The reason this is important is because we want you to understand the admission requirements based on what you're actually studying and completing and what program you're interested in. So in regards to the country, it will be looking at the particular curricula that are available in your particular country. The curriculum could be anything like the US High School Diploma, International Baccalaureate, if you're completing the GCE British level, the Indian curriculum, and so on. So you're going to see a lot of information that is broken down to help you be able to understand exactly how your application will be evaluated and what your requirements will be when we're evaluating your application to the various programs at the university. The first thing that I would suggest is, by visiting the link, is looking at the spread that will provide you with the list of all of our programs. You have the ability as a semester 1 student at the University of Guelph to apply to all of them except for Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, because that is a professional program that does require undergraduate studies first. So the way that you should be looking at it is the required courses. So does your particular program of interest require English, math, any specific sciences, any arts or social sciences, and so on. So if you're not sure exactly how your math equates, look at the bottom of the second page on the right-hand side, and there is a lot of information there. Otherwise, just contact our admissions office and we'd be happy to clarify that. We can go to the next slide. Perfect. So I know a couple of you have had questions in the Q&A in regards to the English proficiency requirements. This is our overview of English proficiency requirements. So ultimately, unless your first language is not English, or you have not studied full-time in an English medium school for 4 years, so that would be, let's say, grade 9, 10, 11, 12, or it could be your O levels and your A levels and so on. So it needs to be 4 years of full-time studies in an English medium school. If that is the case, then we can see that English is your first language, or that you have studied for 4 years in a full-time English medium school, then we would look to waive your English proficiency requirement. If, however, that doesn't apply to you, I know sometimes students will only complete 1, 2, or 3 years in an English medium school, then you would be required to submit proof of English proficiency. And there are a number of different tests that are approved. You can see the list on our page, and you can also see the minimum requirements. So it is very important to be aware of what those minimum requirements are to ensure that you meet them. If you wrote an English proficiency exam and you did not meet our requirements, you are more than welcome to rewrite. So we will not penalize you for that. We're going to look just to make sure that you meet those requirements on the first exam, second, or third. If, for example, it is not very clear based on your documentation that you have been attending English medium schools, then a letter from your school specifying that it is an English medium school, when you began your studies, and how long you have been there would be very helpful in us evaluating if we can provide you with a waiver of English proficiency requirements. With that said, if you are not planning on writing an English proficiency exam, or maybe you feel that you need some additional English proficiency preparation in order to be successful at the university, we do have a number of different programs to be able to support your journey. So if we go to the next slide, you're going to see that there are a number of opportunities for you. The first one I would like to mention actually is the English Language Certificate Program. So the one at the bottom, what this is it's available to students no matter what program you're interested in at the University of Guelph. You need to meet our admission requirements to that program. The only thing that would be outstanding would be your English proficiency requirements. So if you cannot test out by writing one of the exams that we outlined in the previous slide, and you feel that you really need a good amount of preparation to be successful, I would suggest that you apply to the English Language Certificate Program. This is a full-time study program in English courses only. So basically what you would do is you would write an exam on campus to find out exactly which one of the 10 levels you need to begin at. And then once you complete the certificate, you would meet our English proficiency requirements. So you would not be required to write any of the English proficiency exams. And then you would, after completing the ELCP, begin your full-time studies within our academic programs. And again, it's open to all academic programs on campus. The other option is the Integrated Admission Pathway, or we call it the IAP. This is available to majority of our programs. So if you're interested in arts, in science, in commerce, and so on, our website will outline exactly which options are available to you. Then you would study English part-time, and you would be completing your academic program part-time for the year. And then after that, you would meet our English proficiency requirements and move on into full-time studies at the University of Guelph. And the last option is the Guaranteed Admission Pathway, or the GAP program, and that is available in arts and commerce. So if you're interested in basically upgrading your English and upgrading your studies, there are opportunities there as well. So definitely visit our website for very detailed information. Let us know if you have any questions, but do know that if you feel comfortable writing an English proficiency exam and meeting our English proficiency requirements that way, that's fantastic. But if you feel like you need more preparation, then you have these options available to you, depending on which program you're interested in. So definitely pay attention to that when you look at the options online. So in regards to the application process, I'm not sure if you have come across our information on the website, but if you have not applied to the university, you may have seen that the deadline to apply was January 12th, which was last week. That is what we call a soft deadline. That is an encouraged deadline, but we are continuously accepting applications to the university as long as we have room in our program. So really, time is of the essence in that regard. We want you to apply as soon as possible, submit your documentation, and then that way, as your file is complete, we will go evaluate your application and provide you with a decision. So we have what's called rolling admission. So the sooner your file is complete and we can evaluate it, the sooner you will hear from us in regards to our decision, not only about your eligibility for admission to the University of Guelph, but also eligibility for any scholarship. So I would encourage you, if you haven't applied, to make sure that you do apply as soon as possible. Again, we continue to admit students as long as we have room, and some programs are going to fill up sooner than the others, so just make sure that you're aware of that. Another thing to mention would be any other deadlines. So the scholarship deadline for Dr. Vaccarino scholarship, which is our President's Scholarship, is coming up on January 25th. So that is something also to be aware of if you are interested in applying to the university and you feel that you might be eligible for that scholarship. Amy will talk to you about that in a little bit. So in regards to your access, so I've noticed that a couple of students have asked, how do I submit my documents? What happens? So once you apply to the university, first option is deciding how you're going to apply to the university. If you're a Canadian citizen, residing and studying anywhere in the world, you are required to apply to the University of Guelph through the Ontario University's Application Centre. That is like a hub for all Ontario universities. So basically, if you're interested in applying to the University of Guelph and any other Ontario university, you would go on to the Ontario University's Application Centre, fill out your application. The first three choices would be one amount of money, and then after that, each additional choice would be each additional fee. The way it works is you do have the ability to apply to up to 3 different programs at the University of Guelph. So that could be, let's say, arts and science, or that could be animal biology, microbiology, and zoology. So really it is completely up to you which way you're interested in sort of divvying up your application, but do know that you can apply to up to 3 choices at the University of Guelph. We are going to evaluate your application for all 3 choices. If you're eligible to all 3, you will receive 3 offers. If you're only eligible to 2 or 1 of the 3, then you will receive the offer to whichever program you're eligible for admission to. With that said, we do keep your best interest at heart. So if you might be slightly below the admission requirements, we are going to see if there might be another program that might be of interest to you that we'd be able to admit you to instead of the one that you had applied to, just to be able to give some of those opportunities to you to attend the university either way. The application, once it's actually processed, so the OUAC is for all Canadian residents. If you're an international student, you can apply directly to the University of Guelph or the University of Guelph-Humber. So that would be specifically to our campuses only. Or if you are applying to any US universities, you can apply through Common App as well. So a number of options that are very much outlined on our website. Once your application is received, then you will receive access to the admission portal. That is where you can see exactly the information we have in regards to the programs you've applied to, which required documents we need from you, and you can actually upload those documents yourself onto the portal so that we can see them and evaluate your application quicker. There will also be a lot of communication from our marketing communications team and ensuring that you know how to navigate the system as well. So we will be evaluating your application based on official or unofficial documents. However, if you are admitted conditionally, in order for us to give you a firm offer once your studies are completed and you have graduated, we will need official results to be submitted. And how those can be submitted would be dependent on your curriculum. So definitely important to look on our website and also to read your offer letter. If you receive one, that will tell you exactly what your next steps are and how you need to submit documentation and by what deadline. So I'm going to pass it off to Amy now. And as I mentioned, I'm going to look through the Q&As and see what we have, and we will come back to you and answer any questions that you have. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Astrid, and thanks everyone for the great questions in the Q&A. We're trying to keep up, and I know we'll answer some of the longer specific ones. There's a few in there about how do I know which math I need for which program. So I know, Astrid, we can all go through that today to just make sure everyone's aware of how to read those different curriculums to make sure you know which requirements you need in there. As Astrid mentioned, and I'm sorry I forgot this in the beginning, this is only for undergraduate students. I know we've had a few lovely grad students in here looking for masters and PhDs. So unfortunately, this is only for undergrad. So any information you have here is just for undergrad. If you are looking for grad studies, I'm just going to quickly put the email in here for you to reach out to the grad office. They're able to help you. It's gradapps@uoguelph.ca. So if you do have any questions that are graduate related, please direct them there. If not, keep flowing them into the Q&A. We still have a good half hour here, so we're going to plow through as many of those as we can. We've answered a few, so even maybe go to the answered ones and just read some other people's answers as well. They might be helpful. As this is an admissions one, I'm not going to go hugely into fees and whatnot, but I know it's relevant just when you're applying to university, how much it's all going to cost. So this is a bit small, you can see here. But it does give you an overview, and I'll put a link in the chat that will take you to a fantastic page called Funding Your Education. This link that just appeared in the chat is going to give you an overview not only of these tuition fees, all the compulsory fees, your textbooks, all those things listed there, but it also gives all the information about the scholarships as well, which will be in a moment. But as I said before, you're not going to apply to Guelph, you're applying to a program. So again, here, this is the list of the different programs that you can apply to. These will all be in Canadian dollars. And this is what the fees were for last year. So the 2023 fees will be published, I believe, in the coming weeks. It's usually pretty close to this. So this just gives you an estimate of what that is. This is done per year. Certain programs are more expensive than other programs, and that big Doctor of Veterinary Medicine at the bottom there is not a program you can apply to directly from high school. So that price tag there is once you've completed 2 years of undergraduate, you can then apply to the DVM program. If you do have quick questions about DVM, I know there was some veterinary medicine questions in there as well. I'll pop a link in there just so you can learn a bit more about DVM and applying to Guelph as an undergrad and then getting into the DVM program. Those compulsory fees, your textbooks, your health insurance, those are all required fees that you will have to pay once you're here. There is a bit of a range in a few of those. It depends what program you're in and what compulsory fees you are required there. Your health insurance is mandatory, so it's not something you can opt out of. You do have to pay into your health insurance here. If you have other health insurance, we can discuss it, but from my understanding, you do have to have your health insurance. The residence there is a range. It depends on where you choose to live on campus. So if you, this is all for on-campus housing, it's guaranteed for first-year international students. So there's a range because if you live by yourself or if you live with others, share a kitchen, share a bathroom, there's a lot of different options here on campus and hence the price range there. The same with the meal plan. The meal plan works at Guelph that you aren't paying like to tap and have access to the dining hall. You are tapping for whatever you eat. So if you just want a coffee and a muffin, that's all you're going to pay for. If you want to have a lovely big dinner, that's what you'll pay for there. So it's really however much you're going to eat for our dining halls. We are the top food campus in Canada for like 6 or 7 years in a row now. So if you are looking for some good food, Guelph is definitely the place to be. And personal budgets, obviously how much you want to spend just to set up your things here as well. We are going to have a student panel in 2 weeks from now. So next week's the immigration webinar. The following Wednesday will be a student panel, and we usually do something surrounding finance, how to budget, how to finance, how to manage your finances once you're here as well, how to open a bank account. So those will likely be covered if you sign up for any of those events, or for our big virtual open house as well. We'll have some booths available just with finance and just how to any questions about tuition as well. I'll ping it over to the next slide just to go over some quick scholarships as well. I'll pop a link in the chat in there as, oh no, the previous link, my apologies. So the previous link that says Funding Your Education will also have all these scholarships in there as well. Your entrance scholarship, you do not need to apply to. So there is no application on top of your application that you've already sent. So if you are applying to the university, you apply to your program, you followed Astrid's instructions, you upload your documents, you are automatically considered for this entrance scholarship that's listed there. It's going to be between 55 and 85 for your first year. That's dependent on your high school grades. So whatever kind of range you fall into there, you could get 55, 65, 75, or 8,500 in your first year. And that will just be added onto your award, onto your offer letter, and you'll just visibly see it. If you maintain an 80% here at Guelph, so we do things out of 100% scale, if you maintain an 80%, that $4,000 will just renew each year, and you'll just be awarded to you onto your account. So there's nothing you need to do for those entrance scholarships. You're automatically awarded. If you have any questions about it, you can obviously reach out to us. It's all dependent on program as well. The second one down is our fantastic President's Scholarship. So these will close on the 25th of January. So you have a few more days to to apply to that as well. This is a big award of $42,000 over the 4 years. This will go out to one international student. It comes with a lot of research assistantship positions, an internship, a mentorship. This is quite a large chunk of change and quite a big prestigious award. This does have a separate application. So you do need to apply to the University of Guelph first and have a full application in with us. Then you apply to the President's Scholarship. You cannot apply to just the President's Scholarship on its own. We still need your full application in to the system first. Then we will have a separate, that separate application for the President's Scholarship looks at you on a more holistic way. So not just your grades and very merit focused. It's going to ask a bit about your background. It's going to ask about your references, your leadership skills. It kind of looks at you as a whole person. That goes to a large committee that has to review those applications. So that can take a bit of time to get an answer. So you may get an offer from us. This is your offer in, and then you may have to wait to hear back if you get that President's Scholarship. The last one there, those academic leadership entrance scholarships fall off of the application to the President's Scholarship. So there is nothing you need to do. If you have applied to the President's Scholarship, if you don't receive the big top dog President's Scholarship, the ones underneath it are the entrance scholarships. So there'll be several of those that we kind of give to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And those will be at $20,000 each. So even if you think, oh, there's only one President's Scholarship, Amy, why would I apply to that? You think, well, actually, there's quite a few leadership awards after as well. So that comes with $20,000 over the 4 years and is based, again, on your larger holistic view of you as a student as well. Perfect. So if you do have any, we're going to go into some live Q&A now. So please, I can see them coming into the Q&A at the bottom. But if you did have any questions post this webinar, or you just wanted to make sure your application was all right, please reach out to us. Internat there is our main account that is run by our admission staff here. So any questions you have, please ping them there. And any documents. So if you have any unofficial documents or official documents from your school or your counselor, they need to go to intdocs@ulguelph.ca. The one at the top there is our UniBuddy. So we always say if you have questions that you want answered not by our staff, but current students here. So you want to know, how do what housing should I choose? What's the weather actually like there? Is it really cold? How did you balance your finances? Things like that. You can reach out to current students that are here on campus through our UniBuddy ambassadors. It's on your phone. It's like a very text back and forth. You make a UniBuddy profile. You can then select from an array of students, whether you do it by country, by language that they speak, or by a program that they're in. And you can ask live questions to them as well. And of course, very last at the bottom there, you can of course join us on social and follow along. There's a lot of great content on all our social media to cover through there. So I hope that was helpful. I know I'm going to bring Astrid back on here for some live Q&As. I saw quite a few questions just about timelines. So I didn't know, Astrid, if you wanted to, I can quickly go over. There was a few students asking just, how quickly can I get an answer if they've submitted their application? I know there's a few in there. So I'll start that with you and hand it back over to Astrid.
Sounds good. So as I mentioned, what happens is we need to receive your application, we need to receive all of your required documents. And once we have everything that we need, which you would be able to see within your checklist in the admission portal, then I would say a decision could be coming to you the next day, next week, or within the next month. It really depends on our volume and the time of year, because what happens is we're evaluating applications as we have completed files. So it just depends on how many files we have. Of course, the university was closed for about 10 days over the holidays as well. So we are catching up from late December and early January. But just know that we are evaluating applications every day and getting back to students right away. You will receive a notification by email that there is an update for you. And then the offer letter or decision will be on there. So if you have been admitted to the university, it will tell you exactly which program, if it's co-op or regular, if you were eligible for a scholarship, what your deadline to accept your offer is, Also, what the conditions of your offer are. So conditions for all conditional offers would be that you graduate, and then you also complete all of the required courses for your program, as well as that you graduate with a particular final average. So that would depend on which curriculum you're in. So that is something that you really need to pay close attention to. There is also a lot of additional information in the offer letter that you should keep an eye out for. I did notice one of the questions was, how are SATs or ACT scores sent? So that's a great question. This year, just like the last couple of years, the University of Guelph has not made it mandatory for you to submit SATs or ACTs. However, if you have written the exams, you are more than welcome to submit your scores, because they could help you, but they would not be a detriment if you don't submit one, or if they might not be quite as high as you had hoped. But we could use them to basically improve your status with the University of Guelph when we evaluate your application. They can be submitted to us by you uploading them onto your portal, or them being mailed or emailed to us, I should say, would be the quickest way. Sometimes they are mailed to us as well. So a lot of different ways to get them to us. They will be added to your file and then taken into consideration during the admissions process. I'm just going to look through a couple of questions. So what is meant by conditional offer letter? What will be consequences if I would not be able to meet conditions? That is a very important question to touch on. So what happens is, if you're admitted to the University of Guelph and is a conditional offer because you're still completing your studies, you are required to meet those conditions of your offer. If you feel that there's a chance that you might not meet those conditions, we would need to hear from you as soon as possible. I would definitely recommend submitting the student profile form, which will outline to us any reasons why you may have been struggling in your studies. This could also apply to previous years of your education. So not necessarily with the final conditions being met, but also if, let's say, one of your high school years things didn't go so well, and you would like to explain to us exactly what might have impacted your grades negatively. But you should contact us to see if there's something that we can help you out with based on any extenuating circumstances. But sort of a blanket statement is, you are required to meet the conditions of your offer in order to keep your offer of admission. That is a requirement that is stipulated when we give you that conditional offer. With that said, if something does happen, we would be more than happy to look at the information to see if there's a way to accommodate you if you're slightly off of that minimum requirement. Let's see. Does Guelph offer? Oh, sorry, Amy.
I just wanted to quickly reiterate that there's a few questions about how to get into, some are saying web advisor, some are saying portal, some are saying OUAC. So I know we went over kind of how you apply to the university, and that international students have an option to choose from different ways to apply. I don't know if you wanted to just go over quickly the documents and how it uploads for each different one, because I think it would cover a few of these questions as well.
Sure. So what we do is, when you submit your application, we determine which required transcripts we need, or which required documents we need from you based on the curriculum that you're completing. And then we will create a checklist within your admissions portal that will say, we need the following documents. Once those documents are received, then we are notified that your application is ready for us to evaluate. If there is a checklist item that is left unchecked and we have not received that document, that will mean that we're waiting for you to take care of that checklist item before we will move forward with the adjudication of your application. So you really need to keep an eye on the list and make sure that you're submitting what is required. If you have questions and you're not really sure what it means, or if you have submitted the correct information, or if we find that we need additional information, we can communicate through email and make sure that we're on the same page and that you know exactly what we're missing, so that you can take care of it in a timely manner. But first things first, in most cases, it'll be very clear as to what you need to do, what you need to submit for us to follow through with evaluating your application. But any questions would need to go to InTabs. at uoguelph.ca. And provide your name, your student ID, and let us know specifically what your question is, or if you're having trouble uploading a document. So just the last one that popped in is there a specific IB point requirement? And yes, there is. So anyone who's completing the International Baccalaureate Diploma, the minimum, absolute minimum for any of our programs is 28, but some programs will require much higher score. So you need to, basically, it is based on your 3 higher levels, 3 standard levels. We do take into account your extended essay and theory of knowledge. So if you do receive any of those bonus points, they are added. And then we're looking at the score out of 45. Again, bare minimum for any of our programs would be 28, but most of our programs will require a higher score than that for IB specifically. Amy, are you seeing anything you would like me to touch on?
Yeah, so we've got a few questions just about fee waivers. So I can go into that quickly. I know that some universities offer fee waivers, and if you are applying, I've got a lovely student here from India who applied in the Common App and used a fee waiver. So we do not usually accept fee waivers nor give out fee waivers. We don't have a fee waiver that you can request from us. However, if there are unique circumstances, we do look into those as well. So I would, again, I know we keep plugging this email, but it does get looked at really quickly because we have so many people that help in that inbox. So if you do want a fee waiver, or you just want to see what your options are there, please reach out to intapps@uoguelph.ca. But please know, most fee waivers we don't have access to. We aren't able to give fee waivers unless it's a really unique circumstance. But I totally understand the questions there. So if you feel as though you want to reach out, I'll reply to this lovely student here, but also just use that INTAPPS there, even if you haven't applied to us yet, just to check your fee waiver options, especially if you're applying through Common App.
So I can see a student who's asking about the deadline to apply for fall 2023. As I mentioned, the applications are open until the programs fill up, in which case then we start to close them. So you would not have the opportunity to apply. At this very stage, all of our programs are still open and accepting applications. If you are planning on applying for the President's Scholarship, the Dr. Vaccarino Scholarship, the deadline for the scholarship application is January 25th. And the stipulation is that you are required to apply to the University of Guelph as well as for the scholarship in order to be considered for the scholarship. So that would be one very important deadline if you haven't applied yet, to make sure that you apply to the university. After that, as I mentioned, it's rolling admission. So we will be accepting applications and evaluating and accepting students who are eligible for admission for as long as we have space. But the sooner you apply, the sooner you will hear from us. Therefore, the sooner you will know exactly how to plan your next steps, knowing exactly if you're eligible for admission, if you're eligible for any scholarships, and so on. I noticed a student saying, I'm facing a problem that will be needing to talk to someone about my marks of grades 10 and 11. Is there anyone I can discuss this with? Our formal process with any information you would like us to be aware of, that anything that might have negatively impacted your studies, needs to be documented officially through the student profile form, or SPF. So if you go onto our website, if someone can put in the link in our chat, that would be fabulous. If you also go on our website and just look up, search for student profile form, complete the form, we will receive it in admissions, and we will take that information into account when evaluating your application. But just make sure that you submit it as soon as possible, just so that we're aware of any extenuating circumstances that we should take into account. Let us see here. I saw something about a scholarship, so just bear with me. I'm reading on the side here. It was from, oh, here we go. Are Canadian citizens graduating from a U.S. high school considered international for scholarship and admission purposes? So fantastic question. So your admission is very separate from your immigration status. Your immigration status is based on, are you a Canadian citizen, a permanent resident? Would you be a visa/study permit student, and so on. So if you're a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, the fees that you pay and the scholarships you would be evaluated for would be the domestic fees or the international fees if you are an international student. So Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and there are other variations, would be considered domestic for fees and for scholarships. If you're an international student, therefore you would need a study permit to come and attend the University of Guelph, then you would be paying international fees and you would be considered for international scholarships. When it comes to admissions, completely different. It does not matter what your immigration status is when it comes to admissions. It's only dependent on what you're studying and where you're studying. So if you're completing a U.S. high school diploma anywhere in the world, then the admission requirements would be based on a U.S. high school diploma and all of the courses. If you're completing the International Baccalaureate, those admission requirements would be across the world. So nothing, again, to do with your immigration status. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think that is the main concern when Canadians outside of Canada, you will be considered with domestic fees, but you have to flow through the international office just because your diploma is international. So you're kind of have a foot in both doors, but in the best way. So don't worry, you'll be looked at by both teams there. So I know there's another question here. I'm sorry, Astrid, I was half listening to you, half typing. So I don't know if this is the one you covered, but as a Canadian citizen graduating from a high school considered for international scholarships? No. So because your scholarships will match up to your fees. So even though you're admitted through the international office, because you're paying domestic fees, you will only be eligible for domestic scholarships. Conveniently, they mirror the international. So you'll still have what we discussed before, your entrance scholarships, your presidents, and your awards. It'll just be the value of those are slightly different in the domestic world. So if you are looking to apply to a President's Scholarship and you are Canadian, you apply to the domestic President's Scholarship. So your fees will match up with the scholarships, yeah.
There's a fantastic question here that I'm sure would be applicable to many of you. I applied to a co-op psychology undergrad program. How do I know if I'm eligible to work on and off campus? So I'm going to answer this from a couple of different sort of points of view. So what's fantastic about our co-op students is that they are eligible to work on or off campus. What will happen is you will either study full-time or work full-time. So it is a great opportunity to gain work experience. It is paid work experience. And again, you can do it on or off campus. Some of our students do end up going to their home country or to other countries where they are eligible legally to work, and they might have some connections. So it is very broad in the sense of where you can work. With that being said, the co-op coordinators are absolutely fantastic, and they are going to do a lot of preparation work for you and with you. One, to ensure that you're gaining very specific work experience, that you are getting paid, that you're gaining a lot of knowledge, and that you have the ability to grow within your co-op experience, to ensure that by the time you graduate with the co-op designation, you truly have gained years of experience that you can apply to your next steps. So be it if you're going to go to the workforce, if you're going to graduate studies, professional schools, it is definitely something that is very standardized, and the co-op office will support you through the application process for jobs and ensuring that you really get a solid work opportunity during those placements. Depending on the program you're in, you could be doing anywhere between 3 and 5 co-op placements. So some of them would, let's say, be for 4 months or 8 months in a row, at which time you don't study, you're just working, and then you go back to your studies and you go back to work. Some students will go and complete co-op placements in various countries or various companies. And then others might go from one department to another within the same company, or they might be progressing within the same department because they gained that experience. So their next opportunity is sort of more senior opportunity within the same department and the same company. So definitely lots of great opportunities there. One thing from an admissions perspective, if you do apply to co-op, and you're eligible, fantastic. If you're not eligible for co-op, we will automatically consider you for the regular program. So to put it into perspective, all of them are four-year honors programs. Co-op, because of the co-op placements, would take you 5 years to graduate from. Academically, it is exactly the same as the four-year honors program. It's just that because you would have all of those co-op placements during your sort of in between your studies, it would take you longer to graduate with the co-op degree. And therefore, because it is more competitive, it could have a higher admission average to get into co-op. So if you're not eligible for co-op, we will automatically consider you for the regular program. So you don't need to apply to both is basically what I'm trying to say. We have your backup in mind automatically.
I just want to quickly follow up with co-op that I know I've had quite a few students ask me, if I don't apply to co-op now in my first year, what are the chances I can get into co-op in my second year? The answer is it is possible. So I don't want to say that if you didn't get into co-op, it's more so that you have to wait for the spaces filled to get into it. So I highly recommend that you apply to co-op in your first year. It's not something that's easy to be added on once you get here. So definitely look into applying it into your first year. As Astrid said, if you don't get into it, then decision made that you unfortunately wouldn't be able to join co-op. But if you do get into it, then you have the choice whether to accept it or not. However, if you don't tick co-op on your application and you do have the right grades to get into it, we don't automatically add it for you or inform you to say, by the way, you would have gotten into co-op. So I always advise students, if they're debating co-op and is that something I want to add on, just tick it in your application, say, I'm going to put on that I want to get into co-op, and then hear from us whether you get in or not. It's just rather difficult to add after the fact. So if you're debating co-op, I would say just apply to it now so you have that option on the table, because we won't add it for you if you happen to have the grades to get in.
Yes, that's a great point. There is another question. It is very specific, but I'm going to speak about it broadly. If you feel that you do not have the required math course or science course, biology, chemistry, physics, depending on the program you're applying to, you do have the ability to take online courses. So one of the options that we do offer is you could go through the Independent Learning Center, so www.ilc.org. There you would be able to take courses very specifically, like an English course or specific math courses or science courses that are required for admission. So that would be if you are unable to take it in day school during your regular curriculum, or if, for example, you needed to upgrade your existing course and you're not able to do it in day school, there is the online option to take courses, and we will look at them at the exact same face value as if you had taken them in your day school. The same thing goes for summer school. If maybe you are able to take some summer courses or you have taken summer courses, we do accept those. And if you do retake a course, you take the same calculus course once, twice, 3 times, we will use the highest grade for that particular course. So just to answer that question. For the student who had a very specific question in regards to CAPE and mathematics, I would definitely recommend that you send us an email so that we can look at your application, look at your transcript, and figure out exactly what we're working with. There was a question about January start. So that's something that I wanted to touch base on. We are in the middle of January. The studies have already begun, so we are not able to accommodate any students for January. With that being said, each year there is a conversation that is had across the university to see if there are particular programs that are able to admit students for January start. That is not what we traditionally do. Usually, if you're completing one of the English language programs, it is a way that we can accommodate you to begin your studies in January because you had just completed your English proficiency course, or there could be some other extenuating circumstances or specific programs that are allowing us to admit students for January start. With that being said, it is not across the board. It is not very common when it comes to semester 1 students. And the reason for that is because the way our programs are set up is your semester 1 courses are in semester 1, and then semester 2 courses are offered in semester 2. Many of the semester 1 courses are not offered in semester 2. So if you're just beginning your studies in semester 2, it really doesn't give you the opportunity to take all of those semester 1 courses that are required in order for you to progress through your degree. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. So we encourage all of our students to apply for fall. If you are admitted, there was a question about deferrals. If you are admitted to the university and for some reason you're not able to attend in the fall for which you were admitted, you can apply to defer your offer for 1 year, which means then you would need to submit all of your final transcripts. We would need to make sure that you meet the requirements of your offer, and then you could basically defer, put that offer on hold for 1 year only. We would then reevaluate you for scholarships, dependent on whatever the scholarship offerings are for the following year. But that is an option if you wanted to, you know, go and upgrade some of your high school studies, maybe travel or work. Any studies that you do complete though during that year off, you do need to let us know what they are, because they could impact your eligibility for that deferred offer. So if you went to college or university, that could very much impact your offer and potentially make it null and void. So you want to make informed decisions and contact us. Is it possible to shorten the duration of the degree by taking summer courses? So as I had mentioned, they're very specific courses that are offered in semester 1 and semester 2 and then summer. So it really depends on your program. It depends on which courses are offered when. For some programs, there might be more flexibility to do this than others. So really, it would be a matter of speaking with your program counselor. Once you receive an offer of admission, the program counselors will help you determine which courses to enroll in. And they're the ones that would be able to sort of dissect things for you and let you know if there are ways to shorten your degree time where you would still be able to complete all the courses, but within maybe potentially a shorter amount of time, like a semester less or something like that.
I'm getting lots of questions just about how do I check what's going on? I've done everything. I've got my apps in there. I've done it through OUAC or direct to you. Please just keep checking that all your documents are there. You won't hit our funnel to be looked at until we've received all your documents. So if you do have any questions, like, did you receive them? Am I missing anything? It just says I'm missing my finals. Feel free to reach out to INTAPS again. We've got a few people in there today just to make sure those questions are answered. So I feel like I'm giving out that email a lot, but it is really helpful if you are worried about where your application currently sits. It's not something we can do quickly here on this platform, just because we'd have to look you up in our system, but we're happy to do that. So if you do have any questions or want that, make sure you give us your full name, the email you use to apply, and if you have a student ID number, whether it's through OUAC or through Guelph, any student ID number there helps us to look up your application quite quickly. So if you do have any concerns or questions, feel free to reach out, or else check your portals. They should be able to give you all your access there. I know there's a few students here that work with agents as well. So have your agent reach out, or yourself. We're happy to give any information there as well. I will say that if you are here on behalf of somebody else, if you are a parent or a guardian or even an agent that whatnot, we cannot give, sorry, I'm losing my voice. And Astra's doing all the talking and I'm the one losing my voice. If you are here on behalf of somebody, or you want your parent to reach out, if your parent or guardian calls us, we cannot give them information about your application directly to them. They need to sign a document for us to release that to you, to them, sorry. If you are working with an agent, you will have access on your portal to say, I'm working with this agent. You just self-declare it, and then they'll have access to help us with the application. But if your parent or anyone like that is looking to help, we just need to have them sign a form, or we can't release that information unless you're present. Just as a side note, if you do get that as well. I know we're at time, but any last questions, Astra, that you can see? I've tried to answer as many as I can.
So one thing I wanted to mention is, for admission purposes to any of our direct entry programs from high school, so not including Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, you are not required to submit any essays or reference letters or any additional information. We are admitting students based on academics. And then if you do submit an SAT or an ACT, for example, that will be taken into account, but it is not required for fall 2023. If there is additional information you would like to submit, then that should go through the student profile form. Basically, the student profile form is designed, though, to look at any extenuating circumstances that might have negatively impacted your studies. So it wouldn't be just to let us know that you were involved in varsity sports or that you have been working or volunteering. It is really to ensure that we understand why there might have been a dip in your academic standing, to explain why something might have negatively impacted your grades. So that could be anything from, some health issues that might have come up or anything that might have impacted your studies negatively. In that case, please do submit the student profile form. We're going to review the information in the form in addition to your transcripts to make a decision.
Yeah.
If you find that we made a decision on your application and it might not have been in your favor, so you might have been refused, but we did not receive any of the additional information, you could ask for us to reevaluate your application. So to be reconsidered, as long as the program is still open, based on the student profile form and the information you're submitting. There was a question about the education declaration form. So education declaration form is available on our website. If you just search for it, literally by typing in education declaration, you will need to submit it if there is a gap in your studies. So let's say we can see your transcript and you studied in 2020, 2021, and then all of a sudden there are no grades and you're not registered in any additional courses in fall 22. We're going to want to know, did you graduate? If you did, what did you do after graduation? Have you attended any other schools? Have you been working or volunteering or traveling? Or do we need to expect additional transcripts from your high school or from a college or university? So education declaration is just declaring, yes, I have been studying, this is where and during this period, or no, I have not been studying in addition to everything I have submitted, which means we have your complete application. But you do need to submit additional information if you have completed any studies during any of the gaps or post-graduation. So if you had graduated 1 or 2, 3 years ago, we just need to know what you have been doing over the last however many years since graduation.
Astrid, there is a couple of questions related to EDX courses and how they could be or not used towards the application and whether they might hinder the scholarship application.
EDX courses counted post-secondary education if duration is less than 6 months. I would need more information. I can generally speak to it. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, definitely send us an email and we can answer it more specifically. So I find that, let's say in the United States, students who are currently completing their US high school diploma might take a course or two or a few at a community college, but that is during their studies while they're completing their high school diploma. In that case, we will evaluate those students as semester 1 students applying directly from high school and see if they might be eligible for transfer credits for the 1, 2, 3 courses. The same idea is if you're completing AP courses, A levels, higher levels in the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program, and so on. So there are many cases in which case you are still in high school, but you could receive some transfer credits, usually maximum of 2 or 3, depending on the curriculum. If you're completing other post-secondary studies, it really depends on how many courses to see if you might be considered as a transfer student, which means then you would not be a direct high school student entering semester 1, you would be a transfer student entering 2nd year or 3rd year or something like that, which could also impact your eligibility for scholarships as well as co-op. So again, important to submit all of your transcripts and information so that we can have a full picture of what your academic standing is.
Excellent. I think we are close to time here, but if there are any final questions, please make sure you use that INTAPS email. And then as a final thing, I'm going to plug one last, if you're going to look at the chat ever, look at it now. There's that last link there is for international events. So this is a recording. We will post this recording for you to be able to view, and we will send it to anyone who's been here today, as well as any of those upcoming events. So if you do have any questions next week, the topic of the day is immigration. So here in Canada, we are unable to give immigration advice unless you have specific qualifications. So we are very lucky to have a few of those on campus. A few lovely Pugalini and Steve will be there next week to answer any questions about immigration and give advice on your study permit or your work permit or any part of that application. So if you want to join next week, it's the same time as this week. It will also be recorded. So make sure you register for that via the link in the chat. The following week will be our student panel. So you'll hear live from students here at Guelph that'll answer an array of different questions. You can put your live questions in there as well that students would be able to answer. And then finally, put it in your calendar, February 11th is our International Virtual Open House. So this is a campus-wide event for you to be able to log in on a Zoom event like this and jump from Zoom room to go to different programs. We'll have a huge array of different majors and programs there, so you can speak directly with the professors and current students in those programs, as well as some support in terms of our GPS team will be there, which is the global pre-arrival support. So they're able to help you with any onboarding, how to select your classes, how to arrive, as well as housing, any of those questions about finance. And again, we'll have some student panels as well. So it's a great day. It's first thing in the morning, Saturday morning, the 11th, Eastern Standard Time. So check out that final link there. Dave, Astrid, any final words or comments or questions that you want to get through quickly?
I just wanted to add one thing, is that students who are currently in high school, all we're asking you to do is submit any in progress grades. We need to know which courses you're registered in. If you have predicted grades, if you have midterm grades, quarterly grades, anything that you have for the existing year, plus any previous studies. If there's anything that we need in addition to that to make a decision, we will let you know. We know that you will not have your final results until May, June, July, August. It really depends on your curriculum. So do not worry about your final results. At this stage, we will be evaluating your application based on studies up to date. So we just need to know exactly what you're doing currently, and then any grades that you might have available for your current studies at this very moment. And then, as I said, the condition of any offer that is provided to you then would tell you exactly what you need to do in regards to the finals. What is the deadline to submit your final and official documents, as well as any final average that you need to have, and so on. So just focus on getting us what you have to date, and that is what we will be evaluating your application based on.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Astrid comment on the EDX courses based on the two questions. If by EDX you are referring to the platform online that provides different courses such as MIT, EDX Launch, and Coursera, etc., these courses usually are not credit granting. Therefore, might not be used for assessing your GPA or will impact your scores. However, this is the part of the information that could be used on your student profile form to depict more skills that you might have in order to make your application more competitive. But if that is not the case, please send us an email and we will look further into it.
Other than that, I would like to say thank you so much for joining us. It's been absolutely wonderful to hear from so many of you, and we're here to support you. We know that this is a very exciting but also stressful time, so we are here to make sure that we can guide you and provide you with the support that you need. And if we're not able to help you, just put you in touch with anyone at the university who's able to guide you through next steps. And we surely hope to see you here in the fall.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you same time next week. All right. Bye.